In some ways, we feel like the world is full of possibilities, and it is. And it's full of possibilities that are both the best things that we can imagine and the worst things that we can imagine. And the sort of staid, safe, middle zone that we've lived in for the last few decades, really for a lot of us since World War II, has completely disappeared. And we're back in this polarized space where we can't take any of that stability for granted anymore. And possibly that means dreams, and possibly that means nightmares. And right now, what I'm going to do is a trick that a lot of young parents use in rhetorical presentation, which is I'm going to share an adorable thing that my child said, and then I'm going to extract a profound adult lesson from that adorable thing. But I think it's legit. Last week, my brother and his boyfriend came over to our house. Now, we have two same-sex couples in the immediate kind of family. My dad is with a man, my stepfather, and my brother is with his boyfriend. And my daughter has what I find to be a hilarious, and what my dad and brother find to be a heartbreaking, habit of really preferring the gay man that she's not related to in the relationship. So basically, whenever she's talking to my dad on FaceTime, she asks to talk to his partner. Whenever she's talking to my brother, she asks to talk to his boyfriend. I think it's hilarious. It makes both of them cry. But so we're saying our goodbyes at the visit, and she goes up to her Uncle Chris, who is the boyfriend, and she gives him a big hug and a big kiss, and she says, "Bye, Chris." And then I said, "Do you want to give a hug to Uncle Nicky? That's my brother." She says, "No." And we don't force hugs in our family. If you don't want to hug, you don't have to hug. Consent, there's no reason consent should start at, in your teenage. Like, you should be able to make those choices. So we say to her, "That's fine, but would you say goodbye?" And she says, "No, I don't like him." And then I said, "Well, look, Josephine, you don't have to hug anybody, but in this house, we are kind." And she looks at me and she says, "In this house, we are mad." And I posted that on Twitter, as I often do. My kid says something I think is funny or cute, I just post it. And somebody writes me back and says, "Your child is very wise, because those are not mutually exclusive ideas. You can be kind and you can be mad, and a great deal of what an individual has to learn over the course of their life is how to walk that line between those two legitimate and mutually possible feelings." And I feel like the political moment that we're faced with right now presents a very important, potentially mortal challenge to those of us on the left to hold on to both our kindness and our anger. There are people all around the world who are very, very angry. You can't turn on the TV without seeing them. And many of them are angry, and they're pouring that anger on the right targets. And many of them have so tragically aimed that anger that it is only making their lives worse. But so many of them are angry for reasons that are completely valid, and that we on the left have shied away from echoing. When Jack died, those words got passed around. Anger, hope is better than fear, love is better than anger, and those things are all true, and they're things that we should aspire to. But we also shouldn't lose sight of the fact that a whole planet is seeing our atmosphere catch fire and send cities into devastation we haven't seen since literally just mythic texts. People are losing their jobs and not seeing any hope on the horizon for replacing those jobs. People are being priced out of the communities that they lived in, that gave them sustenance, that shaped them as individuals. And I think that question in Vancouver is a great point of how that kind of anger, if not properly channeled, can go so wrong. You see the racism and the anti-Chinese chauvinism that has arisen in Vancouver in response to what should be the perfectly legitimate grievance of people who can't afford to stay where they live, and see it turn into this monster that nobody can control. So one of the reasons that I love doing comedy is that it's a way for me to lash out that is fun for me and usually for the people I get to do it around. It's one of the only things you can do where you can be angry with a smile. I make jokes about the things I make jokes of, not because I'm making light of those things, but because of how profoundly I feel them. And I know that the people in this room feel them just as profoundly as I do. So I would ask us all to heed the words of my very brilliant and very beautiful 3-year-old daughter. Hold on to your anger, but hold on to your kindness, because it's also what defines our alternative to the ugliness that's rearing its head all over the world. And that, I think, is genuinely the only hope that we have. Thank you very much for having me.